Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Personal Dashboard with Notion workshop. So happy to have you here. We're just going to get started very soon. So feel free to write into the chat where you're from, how long you've been using Notion, and what kinds of things do you organize in Notion. If you're joining through YouTube, feel free to join through the Zoom so that it's a bit more of an interactive experience because there's quite a bit of a lag between the live stream and YouTube. So let's first get started with the itinerary for today. So we're going to first have an introduction and then why use Notion as a personal productivity system. And after that, we will be discussing a step-by-step approach for personal dashboards. And then after that, we'll be building a personal dashboard in Notion from scratch. And then there'll be a Q&A session. And then I'll be showing you how to download freebies and all kinds of resources. Great. So let's go ahead and go with the introduction first. So first of all, welcome. And my name is Sara. I'm part of the Organized Notebook. And an Organized Notebook specializes in designing Notion templates that help you optimize your workflow, organize data, and increase productivity. Be sure to check out the website and template store. There's lots of freebies and free resources for beginners to get started with Notion. I'll be putting this into the chat. So a few notes about the event. Make sure to add your comments to the chat and keep the conversation respectful and about the event. Messages not related to these will be moderated and removed if needed. And also, as you go through this, if you have any questions that you'd like addressed, feel free to use this workshop question form to submit anonymous questions. And I'll be going through those questions at the end of the Q&A session. If there are any comments that are relevant while the live event's going on, I'll also address those. But if you have any big questions or anything, be sure to add your questions about the event through the form here. And it's using the new Notion forms. If you've been updated on the newest, latest Notion updates, this is one of the more exciting ones. So really excited to start using this as well. I see a few more people joining. Great. And feel free to write into the chat where you're from, how long you've been using Notion, and so on. Awesome. So now let's go into the next section. So the first thing is why use Notion as a personal productivity dashboard? And Notion is super popular for personal productivity just because of the variety of things you can do with it and basically kind of mold to your own needs. So here we have a centralized information hub. So Notion serves as a single platform to store and organize all of your personal and professional information. So because of this kind of all-in-one use case, it's just such a great place to have a personal dashboard because everyone is different. Everyone has different needs. So whether you want to track your meal planning and see your to-do list or anything like that, you can basically add a very personalized approach to your personal productivity. And I see here, welcome to Sam from Colorado and welcome from Atlanta. Yeah, Notion is such a great tool. Also, feel free to comment what kind of things you use it for. So for the next thing is that it's a customizable workspace. So you can create tailored environment that fits your unique workflow and productivity needs. So as I mentioned before, it basically allows you to make sure that this is your own space and it's tracking what you need. So a lot of other productivity apps and tools usually have a fixed system that you kind of use and then you don't use the parts that you don't need. But with Notion, you can basically build things from complete scratch. The next thing is the cross-platform accessibility. So you can access your dashboard from any device, ensuring that information is always on your fingertips. This includes mobile, web browser, and Notion's app. So no matter where you are, you can basically access your notes and all of these things directly from wherever you're located, whether that's on your computer or through your mobile app. The next thing is its powerful database functionality, and this is where Notion can become extremely complex or as simple as you want it to be. So, on the one hand, you can create very simple pages, but on the other hand, you can iterate and kind of create these relational database structures that kind of tailor to your own data tracking needs and things like that. So, the level of complexity you can have in it is what makes it also a very exciting tool that you can grow with. The next thing is its integration capabilities. So Notion is increasingly adding more and more integrations, and it just seems like in the future, there will be more ways to add the tools that you use in your daily life, whether that's your Gmail or your Google Calendar. They're still working on these elements, but I can see that. I think that Notion will eventually add more and more integration capabilities. So this is another aspect of why it's really good to keep your personal productivity dashboard inside of Notion. So the next thing is that there are constantly new updates. So along with this, just as they announced recently with all kinds of updates from Notion Mail to form builders and so on, there's just so much you can do with Notion, and they're just constantly adding more and more information there. So it seems like the new updates and just the fact that Notion is a growing app and software makes it such a good tool to keep your productivity system there. So next, we're going to go and discuss a step-by-step approach for personal dashboards. So of course you can do, as you start learning Notion, you can build what you need, but I think it's really important to have a step-by-step approach when you're kind of designing a personal dashboard that's going to serve well and have an organized structure. And that's also another reason why Notion can have a huge overwhelm factor, is that it's easy to constantly add new things to it, but without a sort of systemized approach, it could end up being overwhelming, or you might end up having too many things that you don't need in your Notion as well. So in this step-by-step approach, I wanted to cover what you might want to think about as you design your personal dashboard, or if you already have a personal dashboard, what areas you might consider tweaking. But of course, everyone's different. So the way that you want to organize things might be different from this, but this is just one idea. So let's go for step one, which is to identify your tracking needs. So it's really important to be intentional about what you want to track and what kinds of elements you want in that personal dashboard. So you can consider all the areas in Notion that you want to track, create a list of items you'd like to include in your dashboard. So some examples could be a to-do list, calendar, habit tracker, meal planner, notes, and so on. And remember that there's no limit to what you can use Notion for. So if you're a really avid gardener, you might want to track things like that in your personal dashboard. There's no rules on like what should be included in a personal dashboard, but it's really important to see what kind of things are important for you. The next thing is to create necessary databases and pages. So here you can identify and create the databases that you'll need for your dashboard. You can organize them in a dedicated page or add them to a sidebar. And remember that not everything needs to be a database depending on your needs with Notion. So there are some people who might want to put everything into a database, but sometimes that just overcomplicates things. So you might want to consider what kind of tracking can be done on a simple page versus what do you want in an actual database. So these are all things to consider when thinking about having a personal productivity dashboard in Notion. So the next thing is to design your main dashboard. So determine what information is essential. And for your main dashboard view, you can customize it to suit your own needs. And you can ask yourself questions like, do I need to see my reading list in the main view, or what do I need to see at the very top? So everyone is different in this sense as well. So it's important to think, what would you want to see at the very top of your page every day, as opposed to what can be kind of hidden into the sidebar that you can access when you need. Then step 4 is to personalize your space. So make the dashboard your own by adding visual elements or keeping it minimal, depending on your preference. Create a space that inspires you. And then step 5 is to refine and iterate. So use your dashboard for a while, then refine it based on your experience. You can continuously improve your setup to maximize productivity and enjoyment. So it's really important to make sure that it's very personal to you. You can add images or not add any images depending on what your style is and what makes you inspired every day. And as you use it, you're going to notice things that you want to change and so on. So it's just a constant process with a dashboard in Notion. So the next step here is going to be that we'll be building a personal dashboard from scratch during this session. And if you have an empty Notion page, you're more than welcome to follow along as we go through this. If this is too fast, this will be recorded, so you can also reference it later. And one other note, if we go to the preview of what we're going to be building today, is that this is just sort of like a guideline on what you might want to consider when building a personal dashboard, but each of these sections can be different things depending on what your specific needs are. So here we have the to-do list up top, a calendar below, and a navigation on the side. And this can just be a starting point for your own personal dashboard. But if you need things like a meal planner and all these things, you can also add them into different spaces depending on what you want to see exactly into your own personal dashboard. So keep that in mind, that this is just a sort of guide on how you might want to consider organizing and crafting your personal dashboards. So just to give a brief overview, in this one, we'll be having that to-do list here in board view, and then a calendar on the bottom, and then a notes database here that you can add notes to. And then there's also a reading list. And this is just an example so that you can see that not everything needs to be in a database. And you can also switch this into a database later if you feel like it's growing and so on. So make sure to sort of see what kind of things should be in a database as opposed to what kind of things might not need to be in a database. So let's go back and we can start building. So again, if you have Notion open, feel free to follow along. And if it's too fast, it's going to be recorded. So you can also refer to that later as well. So the first step towards creating a personal dashboard is, first we can add a title here. So let's go ahead and put personal dashboard. And we're going to go ahead to the top right-hand corner, 3 dots, and turn on small text full width. So especially for dashboards, you're going to want to use this full page layout so that you have more space to access it. And one more thing to note is that because of this full page layout, this is designed primarily to be used on a desktop, but you can also use it on mobile. It's just going to look a little bit different. So now let's go ahead and start building up the structure. So for this structure, we're going to be using a navigation bar as well as different sections. So the first thing we want to do is actually to create 2 columns. So we're going to go ahead and type /columns to create 2 columns. On the left-hand side, we're going to add our navigation bar. So we're going to go ahead and type /callout to create the navigation. And we can add an icon here, which we'll put into black, and something with lines like this. And we can type navigation. So here we're going to start storing our pages and databases. If you do have lots of databases, you might want to consider creating a separate section where you just store only the databases and then link the views here. But just to make things simple, today we're just going to add the databases directly inside of the navigation bar. So let's go ahead and start building the different sections. So on the right-hand side, we're going to add the to-do list. So we're going to go ahead and type /heading 3. And this one is going to be the to-do list and then /divider. And then on the very bottom, like we showed, we're going to be adding a calendar. So we're going to go ahead and type /heading 3, and we'll put calendar here and /divider. So now we basically have our different sections. And now we can start building the databases. So the first database we're going to be adding, if you type Shift Enter, is going to be the calendar database. So to do that, we're going to type /page to add a new page inside of here. And inside of here, we're going to call this calendar. And then we're going to go to the 3 dots here, and we'll go ahead and choose calendar view database, and then plus new calendar. And just so that it's easy to find later, let's put event like this so we can find it. Dashboard event. Next, we can add an icon. So we can go ahead and choose some kind of calendar icon here. And then we can start adding different properties and different layouts for it. So for this calendar, we're going to be adding several properties, which are just going to be simple, which are tags. So let's say that we have an event here and it already has the tag. So we can add, for example, work. And let's say that this is a work meeting. And then what we can do is go to the 3 dots here, go to properties, and then we're going to turn on the tag so you can see it. So it can be as simple as this. You can kind of change this up by adding more properties here later, but for now, we're just going to keep it simple like this. And along with this calendar view, we're going to rename this to month view, but we're going to also include a week view by duplicating this view and week view. Hi, everyone. Seems like there was a bit of a technical issue. Okay, now it seems back. Sorry for the technical issue here. Yeah, we were just in the building phase of the to-do list. Hopefully nothing got missed here. Okay, great. So now that we're back, we're going to continue with the to-do list. So basically with the to-do list, you have multiple choices on how you can structure it. But for the purpose of this example for personal dashboard, we're going to go ahead and do something that is very simple and also compatible with Notion Home if you want to use that. So we're going to go ahead and edit this a bit. So this board view already has quite a lot of features, which is that it already has these tags for not started, in progress, and done. What we can do is to go ahead and go to the three dots here and then go to layout. And we're going to go ahead and group by, and instead of the status, we're going to group, oh, instead of status by option, we're going to go ahead and use the group. So this way, no matter what kind of tag it is, you can basically group everything in three types. So next, what we're going to do is to add some properties to this. So for a to-do list, something you might want to add could be the status and tag. So let's go ahead and check that those are available. So we have a status, but not a tag. So let's go ahead and add a multi-select and call this tag. And we're going to delete this property. And here we can say, for example, if this is a work task, and then we can click here, but we don't see anything here. So we're going to go ahead and click the properties and turn on tag. So now we can see that. The other thing that might be nice to add would be a date. So let's go ahead and add a date property and due date. So here, if you added a due date like this, you would be able to see it here. Let's go ahead and add that in. So if we go to the three dots here, properties, and then turn on due date. So now if we move this card from in progress to complete, you can just drag and drop your to-do list. And finally, let's go ahead and also add the color columns so that it looks a little nicer. And now we basically have a very, very basic to-do list. We can add an icon here, and let's put something for tasks. And we can go back to the personal dashboard. So now we have our calendar and our to-do list. Let's actually rename this so that it's easy to find. Personal dashboard event. And if we go back, it's going to show up here. So now we have calendar and to-do list. So the other databases we're going to be adding are going to be the notes and a reading list, but the reading list is not going to be a database. So let's go ahead and add a notes database. So we're going to click the plus sign here /page. And here it's going to be the notes, add icon, and we can go ahead and put something for writing. And let's go ahead and choose a table database and plus new table. And then we can put here personal dashboard. So in the notes, this again is going to be just very simple and kind of a way that you can iterate on it later. So we have our tags. We're going to add a created date, so created time. And we're also going to add the last edited time, just so that it's easy to track. Then what we can do is put a URL and files and media. So we're going to go ahead and add URL like this. And then we can also add a files and media. And just quickly, since we're already here, I wanted to show you a little bit about the new layout capabilities of Notion. So here, let's say that this is like an idea you had with your note. And if you put some kind of files and media here, if you now open up one of these pages, you have the option to customize layout. So this is something that could be really fun to play around with if you're interested. But basically, you could add a new section here specifically for your files and media so that they show up and then apply to all pages. So here you would see your files and media in a whole new section. And there's a lot more that can be done with the layout customization. So be sure to check that out as well. So now we have a very basic notes database. Let's go back and add that icon again, and we can go back. So we have three actual databases for this personal dashboard. And now what we can do is start linking the views. And linking views allows you to see it and edit it and still maintain that database located inside of here. So we're going to go ahead and type /link to view of database. And we're going to choose the correct database. So this is the to-do list, personal dashboard event. Oh, not this one. slash linked view. And then we can go ahead and find the to-do list, personal dashboard, and in board view. And we can go ahead and hide the database title. So as you can see, it's really important to know exactly what the name of that database is so that you can find it easily. So now we have our to-do list copied here. We're going to go ahead and link to view of database for the calendar we just added as well. And this is going to be personal dashboard event. And then we can do month view. And we can hide database title. And then we can add a new view like this in week view. Hide database title. So now we have the two databases reflected here. Anything you change here is going to be in the directly inside of here as well. So this is kind of like a synced and linked view of these things. And then the last element we're going to add is that reading list. So we're going to go ahead and type /page. And I just wanted to add this in here so that you can have an example of a situation where you might not necessarily need a database in Notion. So let's say that this is your reading list for 2024, and you can simply add a cover photo. You can add an icon for reading and maybe book. And then here you could just do a simple checklist. So it can be that simple. If you tend to just want to have a checklist, very simple, that could be one way to do things so that you don't necessarily need to build up a whole entire database for your reading list. And later, if you feel like this is an area you want to expand on, you might want to consider storing these in databases. But for now, a reading list for 2024 maybe is not something you necessarily need to have in a database. So those are just some things to consider when building up your personal dashboard. And as you can see, also the notes, we don't display here to keep this area simple. But if notes are really important to you, you might want to consider adding a link to view as well in the main dashboard. So all of these things can be something that you might want to consider inside of Notion. So the next thing I want to show is how to add some visual elements. So again, with personal dashboards, it's important that this space is very inspirational for you so that you want to do more work and kind of stay motivated to do a lot of productive elements. So let's go ahead and we're going to go to a widget that's going to allow you to display the time. So for that, I highly recommend using something called Widget Box. And if you go to Widget Box, you'll be able to create your very own clock widget. And if we, for example, add one that's already there, we can go ahead and add it in. So this clock widget has already been made. So what we can do is go ahead and embed this in. So like this, paste, and then embed. And now it's going to display the time. You can also kind of customize the colors and things like that. So this is a really nice widget to use. If you want to simply add an image, you can type /image and you can go to Unsplash. You can also add GIFs as well. So all these things can be a really exciting way to add some interest to your Notion pages. And if you're interested in Widget Box, I'll be adding the link for it into the chat. And also feel free to mention if you've tried using Widget Box, what are your favorite widgets? And the other thing is that there is a free resource for all kinds of embeddable apps and widgets if you're interested in that. So I'll also put that into the chat. So this is kind of a cheat sheet that you can use if you want to add some different kinds of elements into your Notion. So we've basically covered everything inside of this personal dashboard. As you can see, this is just a basic layout, and you can kind of think of Notion sort of like a Lego set so that you can just mix and match and place things in the way that makes sense for you. And the important thing is really just to have fun with it. So next, I just wanted to mention that there's a 40% discount code with October 40 during checkout on premium templates, especially for personal productivity templates if you're interested in those, so that you can potentially add these to your own personal dashboards, or if you're just interested in some kind of more complex setup, be sure to check those out. I'll be putting the links in. And if you enjoy sort of building from scratch and learning Notion that way, there's also a course, Notion Mastery Learn by Building, which basically takes you through Notion's capabilities through building projects. So this is another highly recommended thing if you want to sort of learn a bit more about Notion and receive kind of hands-on training. So be sure to check that out as well. There's a launch code 30 if you're interested. And now let's go ahead and go into the Q&A section. So make sure to drop your questions into the Notion form if you're interested in adding any questions relating to this topic or just Notion in general. So add your questions here. And I'll start going through some of the questions. Okay, Sam asks, any thoughts on the use of Notion forms for dashboards? So that's a really great topic already because we're talking about forms. Um, Yeah, I think Notion forms for dashboards could be useful, but it depends on what kind of form you're looking for. So if it's a team use case, forms can be really useful because everyone can sort of input different informations into the form, and you could keep a list of your responses as one of your pages inside of your dashboard. So just to give you an example, what that might look like if we go back to our building session, personal dashboard. If you wanted, you could add a page here. So we can put slash page. And inside here, you can simply click form and you can start adding forms inside here. But mainly for personal dashboards, since you're the only one using it, it might not be the most useful use case to have a form. But then again, if you want to input like things that you read or quick notes, maybe forms could also be a useful way to just simply add some interest there. I see that Barb's Digital raised their hand. Unfortunately, in this session, I can't allow you to turn on video or audio. So if you can actually just put your message into the chat, that would be amazing. Or if you can submit your question through the form. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions through the form or also through the chat. I'm kind of able to check both now at the same time. Sam also asked, how about the use of Notion AI with dashboards? I'm actually going to just copy this in so you can see all the questions. I can also send the resources over to everyone after the event is over if you signed up for this event through Google Calendar. So yeah, use of Notion AI with dashboards, for sure. Notion AI is super useful basically across everywhere in Notion, no matter what kind of thing you're trying to do. Notion AI can be a huge help. So let me just give you a brief example with Notion AI and what you might want to do with your personal dashboard. So here we have our kind of to-do list here. Well, Notion AI can be used anywhere. So let's say that this task, we can do something like, let's say that need to research on new, let's say that you're trying to revamp your kitchen. So we can do kitchen. And then here slash AI, you can basically ask a question. So you can say, ask it, what kind of research is good for a new kitchen? And then you can simply type enter. So it can help you to do your task management also. So that's another way that you can consider using AI. So here are some things to consider. And you can insert below on some ideas. So like this, Notion AI can be a huge part of your workflow. And no matter whether you're using a personal dashboard, a team space, anything, you can try using Notion AI. Another really useful way is in your notes, you can add AI properties. So you can go to the plus sign here and then add AI summaries, custom autofills, translations, and even keywords. So hopefully that helps. And thanks for asking. So the next question from Barb's Digital. So let's go ahead and also paste this one in. So you did forms at Tally, but with this actualization to do form in Notion, I don't see if we can send the client to a thanks page as Tally with Notion. So there are still some limitations inside of Notion forms, but if you want to send the client to a thanks page, if we go to, let's just check this out together. I'm still also new to this new Notion forms. So it might be that Tally has a bit more features than Notion at the moment, but let's see what we can do here. So if we go to Let's Build, let's say that we're going to start our new form here. And at the end, you want to send them to a thanks page. You can go, I think, to the three dots here, customize form. And then here in the confirmation, you can basically add thank you for submitting and all kinds of text in here. So you could potentially add your link that you want them to go to in here, but it's not going to be anything fancy. I'm not also 100% sure if it's going to be hyperlinked, but you could consider going into here and adding your confirmation body with that link. So hopefully that helps. So next, let's go ahead and check some other questions that we've had. Yeah, no problem. And thanks for asking. And hopefully Notion also improves on the forms feature. There's so much that I'm kind of hoping that they'll be doing, but that they haven't done yet. So yeah. Then there was someone that asked, what is the difference between a personal dashboard and Notion Home? So Notion Home can also act as your personal dashboard, but it is different in the sense that it's a lot more sort of controlled environment. So you can see certain to-do lists, you can see certain calendar items connected from Google Calendar, but it's not like you can add suddenly your reading lists and things like that in a very free form. So that's what makes it different. I'd highly recommend using both Notion Home and your personal dashboard so you can have a combination of both and you can even connect the two together. Then someone asked, what kind of pages do you recommend inside of a personal dashboard? So as we covered, basically you can add anything you want in here. It's really your personal dashboard. So anything you want to manage in there, you can do so. So yeah, kind of the sky's the limit in terms of what you want to add to your personal dashboard. But in general, it's better to keep things a bit simpler, at least in the front page, so that you only see what's important to you. So hopefully those help. So if anyone else wants to submit any questions, feel free to use the form or add them into the chat. Great. So let's go ahead to the next section. So as discussed earlier, make sure to check out the personal template collection. There is a 40% discount throughout the month of October with code October40. There's also a 30% discount with code launch30 for the self-guided version of the Learn by Building course in Notion. So be sure to check those out if you're interested. And then finally, if you haven't done so already, get started with Notion with our freebies. So if you're interested in the freebies, you can access those through our website. So let me go ahead and share that with you all. The freebies also include kind of resource type templates as well. So you can have like CATEC guides and sort of custom color guides and things like that. So be sure to check those here. And yeah. And then finally, there's also one-to-one coaching sessions and custom services if you need something like that. So yeah, feel free to reach out. Each of these services includes a free discovery call. So you're more than welcome to just come and chat to see if this could work for you or what kind of needs that you might have. So feel free to come chat. And then finally, if you have any further questions or comments after this event is over, feel free to send an email to organizednotebook.info@gmail.com. So thank you so much for joining today. And it's been wonderful to discuss how to create a personal dashboard with Notion with all of you. And really hope you have a wonderful rest of the day and hope to see you all in a future live event.